Just when did you first start recruiting those guys, and when did you know that you could have something kind of special with these guys?
Yeah, with Pete, we started recruiting him a little bit younger and a little bit earlier in the process than actually we did with Mikey. With Mikey, it was spring of his junior year when I saw him in Pittsburgh. I thought he had a huge AAU tournament in Pittsburgh. Played great, scored a lot, scored in numerous different ways. And I was down there trying to see as many kids as possible. But we were looking mostly at seniors, available seniors at that time. And it was ironic, I had heard there was a junior from Delaware that was putting up huge numbers, and it worked out great in that one of the available seniors we were looking at happened to play a game against Mikey's team. So I could sort of see both of them in one game, which was great. And he played terrific. So we really started working hard on him April of his junior year. With Pete, Eric Eaton and knows a lot of people in New York and does a great job recruiting New York for us. He first heard about Pete. And Pete had gone to a couple different high schools and transferred a few times, a couple different AAU teams, so it wasn't a traditional recruit. And he was at Monsignor Scanlon when he first came through the ranks in New York, and he got on people's radars, and he was on our radar. And then he went to Victory Rock down in Florida, and I think a lot of the teams in the Northeast lost track of him a little bit because he played on at a Florida prep school and a Florida AAU program. But like I said, Eric did a great job of staying with him, and we stayed with him and continued to recruit him even when he was down there. So it was Mikey's was a little more traditional. Pete's was a little more non-traditional because of the geography.
Did you know right away that these guys were going to have an impact freshman year? Or?
Well, you know, I knew you never really know, I don't think at this level, whether a kid's going to have a huge impact freshman year, in my opinion. I was at the UConn level for 13 years, and it seemed like when there was an immediate impact guy at that level, you could sort of tell. In my 10 years at this level, I haven't been able to tell. In terms of immediate impact, I've had a pretty good hunch with guys that we've had who, you know, feeling that they could be really good at this level, but you usually don't know when that's going to happen. End of freshman year, beginning of sophomore year, middle sophomore year, beginning of junior year, something like that. Because this level is a lot more about development, you don't. I always make sure that I don't ever try to get myself in a situation where I'm counting on a freshman to have a huge impact right away. I go into every season hopeful that our seniors and juniors will be the ones that will sort of carry the load. And in our first 6 or 7 years here, that was the case. We've got caught the last couple of years in a wins-loss situation with not having that. And at this level, you have to have really strong upperclassmen classes. And Pete and Mikey were two kids that immediately watching them. With Pete, it was his athleticism and his competitiveness jumped out at me right away that he would have a chance to be really good at this level. And with Mikey, it was his skills with the ball and his efficiency scoring and shooting the ball that made me think he could be really good at this level. But again, I didn't expect either of them coming in the door to have this big an impact right away.
What does it mean, do you think, to have 7 straight weeks where one of those guys is won Rookie of the Week?
Yeah, you know, bottom line, it means is they created a great opportunity for themselves, and they're running with it. You know, I think that's great. And, you know, it's our season is probably twice as long as any season they've played at the high school level. And from a demands standpoint and a physicality standpoint, and not only the number of games, but also when it starts. We basically start with conditioning and workouts the first week of school, whereas in high school they really can't do that until usually around Thanksgiving. So the fact that they have physically and mentally stood up to the rigors of their first year of college basketball is the thing I'm most happy with and most impressed with, is that there hasn't been a drop-off in either of those guys' production as we've sort of force-fed them starting role, 35 minutes a game, and a lot of responsibility offensively.
How do you think the rest of the team is kind of meshed personality-wise with these guys? And Because a lot of times maybe freshmen come in, guys are losing minutes, they're not.
Yeah, it was a little difficult at first because that's the natural reaction. Is a lot of times in a lot of situations freshmen have to wait their turn, especially at this level. But I think what made it a little bit, but I think our guys have gotten over that pretty well. I think we had a little of that in late November, early December that we had to sort of work through as a group, and we did. But I think what made it a little easier with this group is it was still such a new group. You know, we start all underclassmen, and we're battling teams that, especially like, you know, probably 4 of the top 5 teams in the league start 4 seniors or 3 seniors and have 5 of their top 6 are seniors. And now you're talking not only seniors, but they're 22, 23-year-old men, basically, that we're playing against. And I think in the second half of a couple of these games, we've struggled to close games because of the experience factor. But what helped Mikey and Pete sort of comfortably slide into this role is the fact that we're still very new together. I mean, we had 6 new faces this year, and there wasn't a real hierarchy in the locker room in terms of playing time and minutes. Shays Daniels was really the only guy who had claimed a starting spot and a lot of minutes and a certain amount of shots. So it was sort of wide open for everybody, and those guys took it and ran with it.
Now, obviously, your team is young overall. How excited are you about the future and being able maybe in the next couple of years to make a run at a MAAC championship?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, very excited, very excited. I mean, I think that, like I said, I leave a lot of games here and I leave a lot of games on the road in this league where we've sort of gotten to the center of the ring with the top 4 or 5 teams in the league and battled them for sometimes 30 minutes, sometimes 35 minutes, sometimes 38 minutes, and haven't closed a couple of those games, as many as we'd like. I mean, we're 7-11 right now in the league, and that's not Quinnipiac's standard. I do think that the core group that we have is learning really, they're learning incredibly valuable lessons that will help us over the next couple of years. And then one thing I think you have to keep in mind, the class of the league this year is Monmouth. And they brought in a big class 4 years ago with Justin Robinson spearheading the class. It was Justin Robinson and Chris Brady and Josh James. And they finished 5-15 in the league their freshman year. And I think they lost 11 of their last 12 games. So there's definitely a sort of a earn everything you get sort of mentality in the MAAC. And I think what our guys have done this year is really, they've done a very good job, I think, establishing a positive future just by how hard they fought and how good a job we did in the middle part of the MAAC season and just battling teams.
Making the transition to the MAAC, do you think you guys had to kind of adjust to, you know, to step up in competition? Do you think that took a couple extra years?
Oh yeah, it was very difficult. The unfortunate part of it was I think I took arguably my best team that I've had here at Quinnipiac, the 2013-14 team, into the MAAC. And that was a year that the NEC was, in particular, down a little bit. And I thought the NEC was down a little bit in 14 and in 15. And, you know, a lot of friends of mine are still in the NEC. And that first year, we go 14-6 in the MAAC, and we're in 3rd place in the conference semifinals and stuff. And people in the NEC were saying, you know, you would have won this league this year easily. And some people said it even about the 15 team as well. So it's unfortunate, the timing, because you look back and you say, hey, we could have had 2 NCAA tournament opportunities in 14 and 15, but one group had to be the group to lead us from a lower level league to a mid-major league. And we've adjusted, and I think we understand the level of people we need in the MAAC as opposed to the NEC. And we'll have this thing fixed, I think, real quickly.
And as far as just those 2 guys again, how their games kind of complement each other, do you think, I guess, do you think they do complement each other well, and what do you think they do well that helps them both on the court to both be successful?
Well, the first thing is they haven't backed down from challenges. That's what I love. They're not soft. Both of them are tough kids mentally. Pete's more an outward toughness and in-your-face toughness, and Mikey's a more subtle toughness, but there's no step back in either of them, and that's huge. So that's allowed them, I think, to have the success they've had already. Secondly, from a basketball point of view, they're both, I think they're both high IQ guys. Mikey can score the ball at a really high level efficiently. And it's one thing to score a lot of points when you're shooting every time you touch it and you're turning it over a bunch. He doesn't do that. Like, he can score a lot of points on very few shots. So he takes good shots. He's got a high IQ. That came from his dad. That came from his high school coach. That came from his AAU coaches. Like, he came to us as a really efficient offensive player. And Pete's impact is that his competitive drive is the thing that I think sort of at times can charge our team and can really push us forward at both ends of the court. Defensively, on the glass, shooting the ball, scoring the ball, passing the ball. He's really a driving force when it comes to our emotional level, too, as well. So, yeah, they play off each other great.
And just team-wise, what do you think it's going to take for you guys to make a run in the MAAC tournament?
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's seasons are up and down, and there's twists and turns in them, and we've had with any new group where you're trying to make sure that you're meshing a bunch of guys that hadn't come together. You expect some of that stuff, and we had, I'd say, probably 3 good growth spurts during the season, and we've had probably three tough spells during the season. We're in a tough spell now. We had been playing well, and now we lost 4 games in a row, and we're back on our heels a little bit. We have 1 week this week to try to gather some positive stuff before we get to Albany. Now, we're going to have to play 4 games in order to win a championship there, and our defense right now has got to be much, much better. That's the thing that we didn't have early in the year. We found a little bit in the middle of the year. We've gradually lost it in the last 4 or 5 games. Our defensive toughness and focus and pride has sort of, disappeared a little bit in the last couple of weeks, and we have to get that back. And practices are precious, days are precious, and we're going to really need it Thursday night. We're playing a team on their home court in Marist that runs great offense, so we'll certainly be tested right away.